Good day, money masters and treasure hunters. Welcome to the April 20th magnificent Monday edition of today's Closing Bell on the Tom O'Brien Show. I'm your guest host, Steve Rhodes, filling in for Tom while he's away for the day. Hope everyone out there is having a magical Monday. Let's make sure we have an extraordinary evening. Of course, the easiest way to do that is to always remember that life happens for us, not to us. That's something you've got to teach to your kids out there and everyone else that is in your life out there, because when that happens, it means that you and I, we can find the gift in every set of circumstance that life is going to throw at us. That is the way to work. That's the way to live, folks. Now, for those of you not familiar with me, I kick things off. Well, actually, things are kicked off with John Logan at 8 o'clock, and then I follow up with John for 2 hours from 9 to 11. My shows are archived on Channel 9 and Channel 10 out there. And the most important thing is for you to know that I'm absolutely grateful for your presence here, and I'm here to serve you. That means all you got to do is pick up that phone, dial on in at 877-927-6648. Of course, internationally, you can also reach out to us, 727-445-1044. That's our number out there. This is Magical and Marvelous Monday. This is Tiger Financial Network. I'm Steve Rhodes. Welcome to the show. Right now, we have the Dow, which had closed out up 208 points at 18,034. The S&P up 19 points. She closed at 2,100.40. NASDAQ Composite up 63 points at 49.94. Russell 2,000 up 13 points. She closed at 12.64. Gold's trading back $8 right now at 11.95. Silver down 29 cents at 15.93. Light sweet crude is up 52 cents. That's trading at 56.26. Leading the charge today, dollar-wise, the upside was Amazon up $14.24, up about 3 8/10% out there. Intuitive Surgical, I believe there are with numbers here after the bell. Intuitive Surgical closed up $12, closed at 5.52. Yeah, I don't see any report on their numbers here yet. It could be before the bell tomorrow. IBM was up $5 and change. Hasbro up $8. Intercept Pharmaceuticals up $7. Priceline up $4. Faro Technologies, or Faro Technologies, F-A-R-O, that was down $16, down nearly 26%. Juno Therapeutics off 13.5%. You've got Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines off $6. Kite Pharmaceuticals down 6. But let's go start off and let's go take a look at what's going on. Well, first, just as a quick follow-up for those that were listening to the first hour of the show, I make a big deal about what the price oscillator is doing inside of the New York Stock Exchange. Let's take a look at the New York Stock Exchange. We had a nice little island top reversal that formed. There was basically a 4-day session that formed this island top. Those sessions being April 14th, which we then saw a gap up on April 15th, and move sideways on April 16th, and then the gap down on Friday. There have been a handful of island reversal tops and bottoms. They do have some meaning, but we did see intraday a spike higher into that gap down into the low of April the 16th. Nonetheless, it has not completely failed. That island top has not completely failed. The price oscillator closing just below the zero line, minus 0.81. What the New York Stock Exchange actually needed, net advancing issues today in order to get above the zero line, was 1280. We saw 1257 as the magic number. Sometimes these things change just a tad here during the next hour or so, but for the most part, this should be where it's at. Now, what does that mean? It means the work to the downside may, in fact, not be over. Now, that is contradicting what it is that we see with regard to the summation index, with regard to the price oscillators inside of the NASDAQ Composite, which closed just above that zero line, and the Dow, which also closed just above the zero line. However, the pattern that has been working the best inside the S&P futures, the NASDAQ futures on their 30-minute charts out here, has been one of Stevie's favorite patterns. If we take a look at the NQ, we focused on the ES Mini. The NQ, what it has done, when it made this bottom down here, it made it with what's referred to as a price relative strength divergent bottom. It means that price was pushing lower into Friday, into 2:30 in the afternoon, but it was doing it without vigor, without energy out there. And when price moves lower without energy, it says you've got to be on the ball. You've got to be watching. Believe it or not, as bad as things might look, even if the composite was down 75 points, is telling you that somebody knows something, that sellers aren't really buying into it. And that's exactly what took place here. Now, when we take a look at wave patterns, for those of you that follow the Chapman wave, and you should follow it, it made 6 of 7 moves to the downside out here. We had a nice little big bullish engulfing candle that formed as we came into the 3:30 time session out there. We had some follow through on Friday coming into 4 o'clock. We had our support levels of our TAS market profiles down there on a 30-minute chart. Well, guess what? The same pattern that we had last Friday at 2:33, 3:30, 4 o'clock, we've got a similar pattern having formed now as we came into this close. We've got price having moved higher, doing it now with less relative strength. Before it was with less relative weakness to the downside. We've got a nice little bearish engulfing candle that took place here as we came into the 4 o'clock close. There is no trade if you trade futures, and I gave this trade out inside the Tiger's Den. There is no easier trade in trading the futures than the pattern that is set up right now inside the NQ. I'm not saying this is going to work, but when it comes to risk reward, typically what you like to do is you like to take a look at the average true range. And let me ask you, have you ever done this? Have you ever been right on the trade and wrong on the stop? Meaning that you used too narrow of a stop and the trade actually worked out in your direction out there? Well, if you have, I've got the secret. I've got the tool to help you be able to avoid that kind of a pain. With regard to this pattern here, this is a whole separate pattern. Your stop, if you wanted to go ahead and take a short position inside the NQ, and it's a beautiful thing out here with regard to the trade, your stop is like one tick above 44.17. Right now, it's traded at 44.08. When I gave out the trade, it was at 44.10 out there. And I said, that is the trade. You do not get, okay, maybe you get a couple of bucks, better reward to risk out there, but it does not get better than that. Now, you can go ahead and apply that, in essence, to the S&P futures out here on the 30-minute chart. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because, hey, in the last 3.5 months out here, nearly 4 months, the market's done nothing. But what it has, it's done a lot on an intraday and intra-period time basis out here. And the same patterns that we use with regard to daily, weekly, monthly, they work on all different time frames out here. The trade setup, quite frankly, inside the ES is any close above 2,099 in a quarter, you would be out of the trade. So beautiful. Now, today, the market was supposed to bounce. We got those signals on Friday because of the VIX index and where it closed. Not in price, but with regard to the percentage change from day to day. It said that we had a 90% probability of the market bouncing today. Now, what it doesn't tell you in my case study out here, let me show you that chart. So I'll show you that tool. Give me a moment. We'll put that up on our screen out here. And I'll show you this chart. It's a beautiful chart. Of course, I'm not saying that because I'm the one that created it. It's really just a beautiful chart. And what this shows you, if you've never been a newsletter subscriber, come on over to the homepage at TFNN.com. Sign up for it for the next 30 days out there. You can try it unconditionally, money-back guarantee. Plus, I'm going to be doing a special workshop that you're going to want to have access to. And you'll get the copy of this charts and all the other great little tools, little nuggets out there that you want to have in your trading arsenal. Hey, guess what? There's a 90% probability. The blue lines are really what it is that you want to focus on my screen out here. When we have the VIX index have a one-day rate of change in excess of 10% out there, guess what happens within 2 trading sessions? You see a market bounce. Sometimes it's a bottom out there. Sometimes, and I'm expecting the market to form a bottom sometime this week. It could have come in at 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday. If the New York Stock Exchange had actually gotten back above the zero line in its price oscillator, I would tell you that it had. It didn't. So that says, and we got this 7-wave pattern, says we should have a retracement that takes place in the overnight hours. Now, if that high gets taken out, there is nothing more bullish than a failed bearish pattern out here. So as I say, with regard to the stops, if you were one that was trading the NQ out there, it's an easy, simple trade. It's your best reward to risk. And if we see that ES mini close about 2,099 and a quarter, that'll say that the bottom actually did come in on Friday out there. And then we will just take things one moment at a time that way. Now, that's what's been going on the intraday session. So now we're going to go ahead and we'll switch over what happened inside the ETF structures out here. Because you see, it's really not been the daily charts for the most part that have really given us the overall best signals with regard to what takes place. It's really been coming from either the 5-hour chart, the 120-minute chart, the 30-minute charts out here. But nonetheless, let's go take a look and see what we can find out inside of the ETF structures for the 4 primary indices. If we go take a look at the QQQ ETF out here, which historically makes bottoms with high volume. The volume on Friday wasn't that high. In fact, the volume on Friday, which was 46 million shares, was not enough as it was testing its swing point from March 26, which had 47 million shares. The Qs were pushing the swing point, pushing down into a swing point with light volume. I would have much preferred to have seen a 70 million share day because that type of share typically forms the bottom. You don't believe me, just go back and take a look at every one of your charts and go back and take a look at them from about 2007 through now. You'll see that high volume lows inside the QQQ ETF series. I can't tell you why it works. They form bottoms. This is Steve Rhodes with TFNN. We'll be right back.